Let's go to football. And Troy Aikman was talking about, obviously getting ready for the playoffs.
I thought he was talking about how much money he has in the bank. That's another story. Go ahead.
Here he goes, Troy Aikman.
The NFL, they're really good at making a lot of money. I mean, they're really good at that. And I don't begrudge them for that. I say good for them and marketing the NFL. And we watch all the popularity of the sport, and of the top 100 shows, 80-something of them were NFL games this year. I mean, I love all that. I just would like to see more emphasis on improving the product on the field. I'd like to see there be some interest in that as well. It seems like all these decisions are made to increase revenue, which is great, but then it's less time on the field for players, and it's less time here. And then, and the product begins to erode a little bit. And I think we've got to be really, really careful about that. And I've been saying that for a while. I think it's the fundamentals of the sport. Football is the only sport that you can't practice it the way that you play it. All the other sports, you get to go practice and then go out and play. And football, you don't. And so, we see the fundamentals of tackling aren't what they once were. There were games this year that we watched, and I won't say what network most of them were on, that I had to ask myself, is this professional football? I mean, there was some bad football being played, and that's not good.
Your thoughts?
I'm lockstep with Troy Aikman, Chris. And I'm not the only one. Tom Brady talked about it this year, about seeing bad football. And that doesn't mean that the whole product's stinky and there are no great players. But there was some bad football, and I think we did see that. And I don't think he's speaking out of line. Here's a guy who could easily just be like, yo, I love football. I played. I won. Right. I'm making $1 gazillion. Everything is great. And could easily turn, you know what I mean? The ratings are good. This is good. But he's watching it. He covers the sport, and he's looking at it, and he's saying, Chris, you watch it. Poor tackling, just bad decisions, some of the questionable play calling, clock management by coaches. It's just a whole bunch of things. But I think he's spot on his take on the NFL.
Look, I'll say, let me start out with this. They're still the best football players in the world. The games are still competitive, and I like watching it. But that said, a competitive game, Rob, no matter what quality of play, is going to be exciting, right? No matter, I remember, and the quality was, these were great players. I'm going to go to the NBA, Rob. These were great players. But it was the style of play back then. And, Rob, I used to cover those Heat-Knicks series.
I remember.
And they're scoring in the 70s in the playoffs. And the game, it was just so rugged that there wasn't much scoring. And the games weren't all that exciting until the end. And you knew that with 3 minutes left, the game was going to be in the balance. And that's what made it exciting. It was going to be a 4-point game with 3 minutes left. Any team could win, and that's what made it exciting. So I'll say that. But I look, there's no doubt, Rob, the tackling is very poor. There's no question about it. And I think that I agree with Aikman, Rob, when he says all the changes that the league is making, which
mostly is don't practice, Chris.
That's Rob. They're not practicing. And now two-a-days have been outlawed for about 10 years or so.
Has it been that long? Wow.
Yeah. I think it was 2011. Rob G, you can look that up. But Rob, they don't hit like they don't hit for real in practice. They don't practice nearly as hard as they used to. And it's showing. I mean, Rob, I think that's what it is, Rob. The lack of practice. I don't care what the sport or what the job, Rob. If you don't work at it, and if you're not practicing, how you working at it?
Right.
You might be sitting in a classroom watching film, being critiqued on film, taking notes, running through game plan, but you have to get out there and practice and play under like real situations. You know what I mean? You're running through in shorts and, that's not the same as, when it's real.
Right. You're not trying to hurt each other out there, but there's got to be a little more. And the other thing is, you hear parity, the parity word, Chris, and I'm all for parity or whatever, but I still want to see some competitive and good football. And here's something that's an interesting stat, too. This season, the NFL had only 9 teams with double-digit wins, Chris, the lowest since 2011. So what is that, 12 years or whatever? Right. For reference, the previous 3 seasons had 12, 13, and 10 teams with double-digit wins. So we saw a dip in that, and a lot of teams were under 500, or not under 500, but you know what I mean, under the
500 or under
double-digit wins most. So it was a dip, and we saw a lot of, also ran so football. And, that's something that I don't know what they need to do, Chris, and maybe you're right. Maybe they had to get back to some sort of semblance of practicing, and it's not about the hard hit. It's about wrapping up people, like guys run right by them. Am I right?
You see a lot of, probably mostly with defensive backs, where they will stick a guy, like hit a guy, and not wrap him up at all. Like they're hoping he goes down.
And he doesn't go down.
And if he doesn't, he keeps running. So, that's where what I noticed the most is the bad tackling. Obviously, look, the completion percentages are higher than ever. The quarterbacks are throwing for more yards than ever. And
a lot of that is rules and, what you can and can't do
no
to
doubt.
Quarterbacks, and you can't touch receivers, Chris. There's a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think those are the main reasons. Like, you can't touch the receivers, you can't really hit the quarterback. And those are, I think, the reasons you see the numbers among today's quarterbacks so much greater.
Oh, they're just ridiculous. You know what was surprising? That Jefferson didn't break Calvin Johnson's record, Chris, playing an extra game and considering how much more people throw the football, right? I was surprised he didn't get there.
Well, he his last 2 games, really after Jair Alexander challenged him from Green Bay.
Yeah, that was the difference.
He didn't do anything after that. And I'm not saying he was scared, but I'm not saying that at all. But it's a fact. I think he had 5 catches in the last 2 games combined. So we'll see what he does this weekend against the Giants. But, yeah, I mean, look, I don't know, Rob. I only thing I can point to is practice. There needs to be more practice. And if you had a lot of people saying this, like you said Brady.
Brady said
you got Troy Aikman. These are some of the, biggest names in the sport.
And they're not just bashing the NFL to bash the NFL. They have no reason.
Aikman gets no benefit. He might get a call from the league.
Exactly. What are you doing?
Right.
Hey, did you check the zeros in your bank account on this NFL that you don't like? I mean,
but that's a guy that cares about the game.
Yes, he played it, won it, won at it.
Yep. It should be played at a higher level. And so, I think that's a huge part.
I wonder if people, Chris, the listeners are with Troy Aikman. Did they feel about, this past season?
Well, let's find out. You agree with Troy Aikman and Rob and Tom Brady that the level of play in the NFL has fallen off?
Finally, me and Tom Brady agree on something here. All right,
I don't know what to make of this.
Let's kick it off with Reggie in Virginia. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What up, Reggie?
Happy New Year, gentlemen. Doing a great job as always.
Thank you.
My humble opinion.
Thank you, buddy.
A lot of brothers gotta make business decisions. I mean, come on, we're making big money. Just like young man Jackson, his left leg is Little American Million, right leg is Powerball. I'm gonna make sure I get paid, and I ain't mad at the brother. But in my humble opinion, what's going on is the ownership. Nobody talks about how these teams come into the States and fleece the taxpayers of millions of dollars to get these new stadiums. Nobody talk about the little rich boys
we've talked about
Mr. Jerry Jones.
We have talked about that, and we know that they hold some cities hostage because you don't want to lose your team, Chris. We've seen it, and sometimes cities give in, and sometimes they don't. The Chargers aren't in San Diego for a reason. The taxpayers said they don't want to pay for it. They didn't care. They told them to get out of town, and they left. Teams have moved. We appreciate it, though, Reggie. Thank you.
Yep.
right? I mean, the Chargers, Chris, they moved. How many teams have moved? Teams have moved.
No, you're right.
The Oakland A's are going to move to Las Vegas, Chris. You know why? Because Oakland doesn't want to pay for a new stadium for the A's. Plain and simple, right?
Yep.
The taxpayers don't want to pay. Ed in New York, you're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What's up, Ed?
Hey guys, I long time listener, first time caller. I just wanted to say what's up.
Appreciate it,
guy. I really quick. I'll touch on something. The correlation with me between these athletes going hard. I think they go hard, right? They're professional athletes. They hit each other hard, right? But the practice and the level of, I don't want to say effort, but the amount of energy they put into this, it correlates, I believe, in like all sports. Like you would see, and I don't mean to sidetrack to baseball per se, but baseball pitchers back in the day, you were throwing 120-something pitches. And the more they pull back and pull back and pull back, these pitchers, they barely throw 100 pitches, 80 pitches. And I remember a couple years back, Nolan Ryan, when he was running the Rangers thing, really forcing his pitchers to push that limit. And then they had like the only pitching squad that could touch 100 pitches. And I don't want to take up time, but I think that, if they go hard, they play hard, we see less injuries. If they rest more, we see more injuries. And that's basically how I see it.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
appreciate the call. Thanks for the support.
It seems like, Rob, you could say maybe across. I don't think this is the case in football. In basketball and baseball, it seems like they're not pushing their bodies to the point where they develop the resistance to the stress that's put on it in a major league game or an NBA game, and I think that's why injuries are up. Football, though, I mean, I don't know if injuries are up in football. It's just the level of play doesn't seem as high.
No doubt. Let's go to Robert in Stockton, California. You're on the Odd Couple, Fox Sports Radio. What up, Robert?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? Love the show.
Thank you.
I've called a couple. You're welcome. Love the show, man. I told the screener to straight up no for different reasons, but it's 50-50. I've never seen tackles. I think tackles are okay. I've never seen so many drop passes by well-thrown balls, and that's because of the more the use of gloves, right? And
I think the gloves, though, help. Like those one-handed
those sticky
catches,
gloves,
there's
right.
no way you're seeing those without these gloves.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. So, and the play calling, isn't that creative sometimes? Sometimes the play callings will come from 1970 or something, but I like to make a comment on, so it's yes or no for me, but I like to make a comment on the injury, and I got an interesting thing. I think they got to work on, they've got to work on their skeleton, fellas. They got to get really that foundation strengthened, man. Needs to be a serious skeleton hardening. Kind of strange, right?
All right.
You heard of that before? No, that would really help, dude. I've never heard of so many ankles and ribs.
We talk about it all the time. It is amazing where we are, Chris, and the injuries and things that have happened. It's a little shocking.
Yeah.